Hello students, welcome again to this third video of the 10th class of the Strategic Management Unit. During this class, we are going to speak about a very important topic on strategic management, which is diversification. All managers of big companies agree that diversification is one of the biggest challenges that they have within their businesses. And here in this video, we're going to see the main features of such diversification. As usual, we're going to start with a definition of diversification. Diversification strategy is the company's decision to enter one or more new industries to take advantage of its existing distinctive competencies and business model. And managers often consider diversification when their company is generating free cash flow with resources in excess of those needs to maintain competitive advantage. Think, for example, on Amazon with Alexa or Amazon Prime Video. And Amazon started to diversify once they have enough free cash flow in their main activity, the retail activity. So usually managers start to diversify once they have enough cash in the main activity of the company. Despite the fact that diversification is in general terms a good thing for business, a good thing for strategic management, there are advantages and disadvantages of to diversify. As advantages of staying in a single industry, we will say you can focus resources and capabilities on a competing successfully area, and you can focus on what the company knows and does better. Here you have the saying, the clover should stick to his last. And disadvantages of being in a single industry, there is advantages for the diversification, will be danger of industry declining, missing the opportunity to leverage resources and capabilities to other activities, and stop learning. And here you have a brief video about the advantages, the benefits of diversification.
Well, I do want to talk about my generation, the millennials. We were really coming of age during the crisis. So how would you advise us to prepare, and I guess, what would you tell our generation? We feel scarred from the crisis.
Yeah. First of all, I think one of the problems is that the experience that you had as the last experience is the one that's going to stick in your mind and probably will not be the one that's going to get you. So that the next experience will be very, very different. I know my parents went through the Great Depression, and then they missed out on the boom because they were always thinking about that. And so I think that what they need to do is see all of those crises. That's why you can see inflationary ones and see all of those, and once you get that perspective, I would say three things to your generation, okay? Three recommendations. The first recommendation is to think about your savings and how much money do you have for savings. And the best way to think about that is to think, how much money do I spend each month and how much money do I have saved so that I can, how many months am I going to be okay without that? And to value savings, right? And calculate it, because savings in that is freedom and security, and think about what that is. So that's the first. How much do I have for that? The second thing is, how do I save well? What should I put my saving in? And when thinking about what you should put your saving in, realize that the least risk investment that you think from volatility is the least risk investment, which is cash, is the worst investment over a period of time. And you could judge that by judging the rate of inflation in relationship to the after-tax income you're going to earn. So if you have an inflation rate that's 2 or 3% and you're earning 1% and you have to pay taxes on that 1% or the 1 or 2% that you're going to get, you're going to get taxed essentially at 2% a year, and that's going to be a problem. So you have to move into assets that are other assets that are going to do better over a period of time. And when you do that, the most important thing I can convey to you is to diversify well, because I can guarantee you that one of those assets, and you won't be able to pick the right one will be disastrous in your lifetime, that you will lose half of that savings if you're in the wrong one, and you won't know what the right one is. And so pick different countries, pick different asset classes, and I could probably take too long explaining how you might do that. But so that would be the second thing to learn. First thing is think about how to save. Be cautious about debt. When you're thinking about debt, think about, is that debt going to help my savings, or is it going to produce an income? Sometimes debt, like buying a house or buying an apartment or buying an asset, it produces forced savings. Forced savings is a good thing. Or if you're taking on debt and you're thinking, am I going to have that debt in an asset? That asset better produce more income than the cost of your debt. If you're using debt for consumption, that's not a good thing to do. Okay, you're giving up that safety. So number one is think about how much you save and think about whether that should be how you borrow. Number two, make sure that you think about the diversification of that, not in cash. And number three, do the opposite of what your instincts are. If you're going to play the game, it has to be the opposite of what your instincts and the crowd says, because the market reflects the crowd. So you want to buy when no one wants to buy, and you want to sell when no one wants to sell, right?
Right.
So, and that's emotionally difficult, and probably you're not going to play that game well, because it takes a lot of resources to play the game. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year to try to play that game well, and it's a tough game to play well. So I would caution you about the market timing game, but I would say that if you're going to do it in the ways that are uncomfortable, because they're opposite your instincts.
In order to know if diversification is going to create value to shareholders, you have to perform three kinds of tests for the things that you are to diversify. First of all, the attractiveness test. Diversification shall be directed towards attractive industries or have the potential to become attractive. You cannot diversify in one industry in decline, for example. The second test is the cost of entry test. The cost of entry shall not capitalize all future profits, so you have to take in account which are going to be your benefits, your profits, and therefore you can allocate just a certain part of such profits, but not all the company's profits to such diversification. And finally, the better off test. Either the new unit shall gain competitive advantage from its link with the company or vice versa. Here you can find a couple of examples, famous examples of diversification. For example, when Google purchased Motorola in order to participate in cell phones market, you have the example of Virgin. Virgin have companies related with travel agent, airlines, telecom and media, soft drinks, railways, so it participates in a lot of industries. And for example, Amazon has a main business, which is retail business, but it decided to participate in the online cable TV, the Prime Video, or for example, you have the same case with Apple, and you have the case of Apple TV. There are examples of diversification of big companies. Diversification is not always good. It's going to be good for companies when it's able to create value, and you can find here when a diversified company may create value. For example, you have the case of transferring competences among existing businesses. You have the case of Facebook and WhatsApp, for example. They share a lot of stuff, a lot of software. Of course, at the beginning they didn't share data, but nowadays you can see that your contacts are more or less the same in the two programs. Another case in which a diversified company can create value is leveraging competences to create new businesses, sharing resources to realize economics of scope, using product bundling. For example, the case of Amazon, when you have a subscription in Amazon Prime, you can see the Amazon Prime's video, for example, and exploiting general organization competences to enhance performance within all business units. And this is very important. This is how a company can diversify into new businesses. Generally speaking, there are three main ways to diversify. First of all, through an acquisition. Secondly, through an internal new venture, which we call a startup. It's a business created by the main business. And third, the joint venture, to join with a third party to create a new company. Here you can find this example applied to the case of Google. Google acquired certain companies, for example, Motorola to enter in the cell phone market, YouTube to enter in the broadcast online market. Google created new companies or created new business division from zero, where they created several startups, for example, Google Translate, Google Mail, Google Docs, Google Maps, or Google Earth, and Google started several companies with other companies in order to create a joint venture in the case on Intel or Android, for example. Here you can find the main characteristics of the three ways to enter into diversification. First of all, acquisitions. Acquisitions, generally speaking, are fastest, is the most popular way. For example, when Google acquired YouTube, it was a very quick deal. Can overcome entry barriers, for example, technological inexperience, supply relationships. So it's not, you do not need to have such know-how, because you are acquiring the know-how of the existing company, which is already set up. Another feature is that you can gain scale fast if needed to compete with other firms. You can acquire the company and therefore have their client list on the next day, and gain brand recognition. If you prefer internal new ventures, for example, creating startups, creating the Google Docs division, creating the Google Maps, Google Earth, you have to start a new business from scratch. Ample time to launch from ground up. You have to take in account that you are starting from zero. Existing firms likely to be slow. You do not have the knowledge. You do not have the know-how, and company already has most or all the skills it needs. So you have to have the talent and have the skills to develop the new venture. And finally, if you join with another company to create a new company, think, for example, in the case of Sony Ericsson, of the case that we have seen of Google with Android, it's risky to do it alone, and therefore it's better to join with a partner with experience, pool resources, and sometimes needed with foreign markets or deal with political cultural realities. You have to take in account that there are still several countries, several foreign markets in which you have to participate with a local partner, so that the local partner, first of all, gives you the knowledge and the contacts to enter into such market, and secondly, because in several markets it is forbidden to participate if you go alone for foreign capitals. Thank you very much, students. This is all for today. Please take in account that you have to submit the strategic analysis project before the April 29th at 12 o'clock of your time zone, despite the fact that Canvas say that it's 12 o'clock of Spanish time. You have to take in account your time zone. And On the next day, on Wednesday, we're going to have a guest speaker, which is going to speak us about the 7 main skills required in the working world. It's going to be a really interesting class. Thank you, students. Have a good week, and we'll see you on next Wednesday. Thank you.